Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast land. It's me, long lost voice Eddie, the host of EAC Speaks. I know we've been gone for a couple of months, but we're back with the jump off. Don't call it a comeback, okay? So I'm super excited for this month's episode because we have an awesome advocate in the national realm, someone who I feel like could give some inspiration to all of us living in Arkansas and all of our listeners across the world. So my guest is today is none other than our fave advocate, Destiny Smith. Woo!
Hey,
Hey, Destiny, what's going on? How you doing, babe?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm amazing now that I have a chance to speak to you.
I know that's right.
So, Destiny, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, all those kind of things.
So I have to remember I'm on a podcast and not on live.
Okay.
But my name is Destiny Smith. I'm a 28-year-old African American woman. I am from Iowa, and I have been living with HIV for a little over 5 years. It'll be 6 years the day after Christmas. So I was actually 22 and pregnant when I found out I was pregnant. When I found out I was positive. And it was after my favorite holiday. Christmas is my favorite holiday. And I found out I was HIV positive while I was pregnant. I didn't know too much about HIV because nobody really talks about it. So I thought I was going to die and I didn't know what was going to happen to my child. But here we are, 5 years later. I'm a published author. I blog, I share my story, I help other people. I'm a peer navigator for my 9 to 5. So my life has just completely changed, but in a good way.
That's amazing. I love hearing those inspiring stories because not only does it inspire me, but I get messages of people saying, like, that was great. Let's hear this. Let's talk about this more. And so I'm super excited that we got a chance to connect at
Yeah,
USCHA because
yeah.
USCHA is like our big family reunion, right?
No, for real. That's exactly what it is. A big family reunion. That's
So, for those of you that don't know, USCHA stands for the United States Conference on HIV and AIDS, hosted by our loves at NMAC.
yes.
And this year was a love letter to Black women. So,
Okay.
this episode is going to be my love letter, my personal love letter to you, Destiny.
Ah, I feel so loved. I love that.
So, talk to me about what's the importance of like networking at conferences like USCHA, meetings that you may have, and other places.
um. So so let's talk about how when I first So I live in Iowa. Iowa is small compared to certain places in the South and other bigger cities. So when I found out my status and I got out of my depression a little bit, I went to in-person support groups. Um, and I never downplay the support group. I never say this support group didn't work for me, because I got to see people who have been living with this virus since the 80s and they're still living. So they're long term survivors. That helped me in a sense to know that this is not a death sentence. But also, I didn't see people who looked like me, as in black people, as in black women, as in women at all.
Mhm.
So I got online and I looked for people who specifically looked like me, and I found a website called the Well Project, which is a national, global organization for women living with HIV that allows us to get on there and there's facts about HIV, all of this data and information, but they also let us blog. Um, and that became my family. And what's crazy is right after I found them, the pandemic happened. So with COVID
Mm.
and everything. So there were no more in-person support groups. There were no more in-person conferences. So I got to get to know these women and I joined their cab and I got to know these ladies for about 4 years. And then USCHA of last year, which was in Puerto Rico, I got to meet almost all of them in person for the first time.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so USCHA has been my I don't want to say my saving grace, but has been my meeting point for the people
Hmm.
that God allowed into my life after I contracted the virus. Even this year, for the Love Letter for Black Women, I got to meet Lynette. I also met her
Yes.
through the Well Project, but she didn't come to Puerto Rico. So this was my first time in 5 years of knowing this woman that I got to meet her. So I just feel like going to these conferences, and even if you don't know people online, even if you're just coming for the first time because somebody around you in your support system was like, this is something that I think you need to be at, you need to be there. Um, I pour into the clients that I have now as a peer navigator to fill out those scholarships and try to get in those spaces, just because yeah, we have these support groups and we have these people around us and we love these people and they love us, but it's a different feeling when you're actually living with the virus and you get to be around other people that know what you're going through. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That was beautifully said of like the connection. And you mentioned if you don't know anyone coming to conferences like that, I remember people just taking me in anyway. Like
Yeah.
I could be standing in line for the plenary and just talk to somebody, and they would just be so welcoming.
Mhm.
So I love the fact that you mentioned that community of people because
Yes.
no matter if you feel alone, no matter if you feel like you're the only one going through whatever it is, there is a community of people who may not 100% understand your exact story, but they will be there to welcome you in for that safe space.
And I also want to say, just because I love the fact that it was a love letter to Black women,
Hmm.
from day one, my mom has stood beside me, um, and she got to go to USCHA this year, and this was one of her first conferences, and it was one of her first big conferences, and the way community loved on her,
Hmm.
it was amazing.
That's awesome. And I also wanted to touch on that mother-daughter support because I got a chance to meet your lovely mother. She was she
Yes.
was awesome. I can't begin to tell you how much I just loved her and how much she just loved on me. And we were strangers. So I was just like, I love y'all.
Thank you.
So talk to me about that level of mother-daughter support and how much it means to you as an advocate.
It definitely means the world. I feel like people ask me this question all the time because
Uh-huh.
me and my so close. But if y'all would have met me when I was a teenager, y'all would have never thought we would be as close as we are now.
Hmm.
Um, my mom is also. I have a brand called Living My Truth, and I point out the fact that it's for me and for young adults and um, African American women living with HIV, but it's also for anybody that's living in their. So my mom's truth is she has been clean and sober from drugs and alcohol for almost 11 years, and she lives with that proudly. And I just feel like with her going through her own struggles and her own stories, and then me getting older and having my own children and seeing what it is to be a mother and the things we have to do and the stuff we have to sacrifice as mothers brought us closer. I remember one day we were sitting in the car and we were talking about something. I happened to slip up and I was like, girl, like she was my friends or something. And my mom has never allowed that. But at this time, I am grown and we were having like a friend conversation. And she was about to check me. And then she's like, you know what? You is grown now and we is talking like, and she's like, so it's fine. And I think at that moment, that's when we got closer. And I was just like, okay, girl, like now I can talk to you about anything. So,
Okay.
like just we sit on the phone and talk for hours. Anything that has to do with my advocacy work, if she can come, she comes. When I do like pop up shops for my books and stuff, she's always there to help. Like she can run down my whole bio without me saying anything, and I just appreciate that. And I just appreciate the love because I know there's some people out here living with this virus and they don't have that support. And I think a mother's love, even if I didn't have any other kind of support, just her love alone would lift me up. But I don't get me wrong, I appreciate and love all my support people.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
like a mother's love is just something different. It's something,
Mm-hmm.
and to have that in all aspects, and to be able to go through my good and bad days and know if I pick up the phone and call her, she's gonna answer. Um, and I pray and wish that everybody gets to feel that, even if it's not with their own mother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, God has placed us in a world where you're able to create your own family. So it never has to be the family that you came from, because who knows what other people's stories are. But you can create your own family and go from there.
Absolutely. Creating your own family, your tribe is what I
Yeah.
love to call my people. And that tribe extends, right? Because we have our close immediate, then we have our next level, and it continues to grow into that family of what you just said. Just like your regular biological family, you have your extended love
Hmm.
family. So I love that. Now, let's talk about let's just jump into the conversation. So I wanted to start off with something that folks in Arkansas can kind of resonate with. Now, I know you live in Iowa and it's the Quad Cities, right?
Yeah.
Look at me, I got it
Okay.
right. So it's easy to go somewhere and know someone or recognize a face or know someone that knows this person. How
Hmm.
did you navigate those things in your area when you were trying to get in services?
Um. So I feel like when I got in services, um, I feel like the place. So I feel like there's only one place around here that offers services in like this specific area. I also feel like at the time that I like first got in and I was going, there was no one there that I knew. I was never bumping into anybody that I knew. So I don't think I really started having those type of problems until I became a peer navigator.
Mm,
So I November will make a year since I've been working at the organization that I get my services from. So my case manager is there. Um, and now I'm working with clients and I'm seeing people that I know that other people don't know about their virus. So I feel like now it's like, oh, in my own head, and I'm sure in certain clients' heads, if they're in the car with me or if they're around me, just on a random day at a random time, if someone else sees us, they're going to be thinking, "Oh, I know lives with HIV. I know she's an HIV advocate. I also know she works for the same organization that works for other people living with HIV. So is so and so that's sitting in the car with her right now living with HIV." Uh, I just want people to understand, yes, I do this work and yes, I pour myself into this, but I'm still that same person that they know. I also feel like sometimes I want them to feel safe to come to me, especially if it's somebody that like. When I say I was close, I mean it's close. Like we all went to school together, we all did this together. So in my head, I feel like they should feel safe enough to come to me and open up about HIV because they see how hard I go for it.
hmm.
But others people, if they're newly diagnosed, all they're thinking about is the stigma, so they're not thinking about how close we are and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah. And
so it's hard, but I try to work through it. I try to work through it every single day and just continue to show my face to let them know that this isn't just a quick little thing that I'm doing. It's something that I'm doing for the long run. And I'm here if they need me.
yes, and that passion. And I thank you for that steadfastness of knowing that, there are people who may be afraid to talk about it, but you're being willing to be that safe space. It means a
Right.
lot. So I'm so appreciative of folks like you doing that work because it means the world. It meant the world to me when I had someone like that. So yes, I love the life-changing work that people like you are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, when you mentioned earlier that, but people may be afraid to talk about HIV. Why do you think it's such a scary discussion in 2023?
Um, I feel like I love how you said in 2023. I
Mhm.
feel like it's still bad in 2023 because 'cause I just had this conversation the other day too. The science for HIV has changed dramatically. People are living and they're living very long lives because of the science. The problem is nothing else is moving with the science. Nothing
Mm.
else is going with the science. Yes, we can take a pill or an injectable and we're going to live just fine, but people who were around when it first came out, or people who their parents were around and these are the things that they had to say about it, so they're just stuck in that mindset. Uneducated people who don't want to be open-minded and learn are just thinking this is still a gay disease, which is not. This cannot happen to them. And I feel like with the black community a lot, that's how we think. It can't happen to me. Nobody's talking about it, so it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If we
Mhm.
don't think about it, it's not going to happen. But it is. So I just feel like if people normalize the HIV conversation, which I try to do by going live on Facebook and TikTok Monday through Friday, um, then more people will start to talk about it and more people will start to understand that it's not a death sentence, but it's also something that I don't want to contract. So maybe I should go get tested and tell my partner to get tested and tell my friends, let's go get tested. Um, but I feel like it's still the same because stigma hasn't went anywhere. Yeah,
Mhm.
the science got great and that's great. That's helping the people that are living with the virus. But there's no conversations being had with the negative people to understand that it's still around and it hasn't went anywhere. We're just trying to control it. But how can we if nobody's talking
Right. I love how you put that. The science has moved, but other pieces have not. And you mentioned that you go live. So, what role do you see technology and things like social media playing in spreading the awareness and education about HIV?
I feel like it plays a very big role. I love when I see advocates going live. I love when I see advocates using TikTok shorts and reels um, to explain HIV or to share. Like, yes, I'm a woman living with HIV, but I also have two children that are negative, and here's why. Just because if we're moving with technology, we're reaching young adults, we're reaching children, we're reaching people that the government or whoever no longer wants us to reach because they're not teaching it in schools. They're not talking about it in schools. Parents aren't talking to their kids about sex. So we know if they're not talking about sex, they're not talking about HIV. So all of these people that we are not reaching are people that are on social networks, are people who could just happen to be on TikTok and scrolling on their For You page and see somebody living with HIV and just be like, oh, what is that? And now they're in the conversation or get in the conversation by being stigmatizing. But by the time they get off of that live, they have learned something and now they have a whole different mindset.
Hmm. And asked that question because it's really important because recently I've been seeing a lot of posts on X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll have a rant about that. But I saw a lot of posts about a recent video that someone made talking about a lot of antiquated beliefs around. I forgot the group, but maybe the Neighborhood Talk took a
Mm-hmm.
small piece of what this advocate was saying about having sex without a condom and wanted to um I guess spread stigma around people with HIV having sex without a condom and not knowing things like the science of U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. And
Mm-hmm.
so I took it as, like you said, folks just don't understand these things. I created a whole little thread about it, and now
Yeah.
somebody reported it. So two of my tweets got deleted. I was like, oh, that's just nice. But I think it's important that we continue to spread the messages because spreading knowledge, not stigma, is one of my biggest pieces on social media. So yes, I love that you're doing that. Now tell the people where they can follow you.
So they can follow me on Facebook, or TikTok. Both is under Destiny Smith. If you put HIV behind it, it'll pop up quicker. They can also follow me on Instagram. And that's Destiny Unshea, so UNSHIA. Um, and then I do YouTube and stuff and podcasts, and books, all of that. So once you follow me, you can just click the link in my bio and it'll pop up everything else.
That's cool. So definitely make sure y'all follow, share, like.
Yeah.
Now, when you're on these lives, we know there's some wild things that can take place. Now, what's some of the wildest things that you've read or seen on one of your lives?
So recently, um, I got in a relationship. We've been together since January. My partner is also positive, so he gets on live with me sometimes. And Jesus, Jesus, like so I'm almost to 30,000 followers on Facebook, and they would never talk to me the way these TikTok people talk to me.
Ooh, goodness.
We were on TikTok one night, and oh my Jesus, they just, oh, he's so fine. Um, he just with me because, oh my God, he was just with me because so many random things. Cause I'm
Yeah,
because I'm giving him my whole check. He can't be living with the virus because he too fine to be living with the virus.
Lord.
I'm like, Jesus.
Okay.
And I'm just like, well, this is a learning moment, you guys, because this is why the virus gets passed around. There's no look. Let's
Yeah.
start there. Um, and at this point, there's hundreds and thousands of women on this live who doesn't care if he's living with the virus. He just fine enough that they ready to drop their draws.
I see. Look at him. Ready.
So, but yeah, I've heard crazy things. I've been called a bad mom.
Oh,
Um,
no, no. People do a lot.
yes, like people say lots of things. Um, but I am a firm believer in God, and I feel like even when I went public the very first time sharing my story, I prayed about it. I talked to God, and I just wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing, for me and the people around me. So there has
Mhm.
always been negative comments and stigma, but I feel like God has placed the Holy Spirit in me and put me so much at peace that those things are just things that I don't pay attention to, or I just laugh it off.
Yeah.
Because my life could have went a totally different direction when they
Mhm.
told me that I was living with HIV, and it didn't. Before I contracted the virus, before I got pregnant with my daughter, I used to drink all the time and black out. Sometimes I would wake up, don't know where I'm at. So just imagine if when I got that news, I wasn't pregnant. I would have been somewhere dead or somewhere really, really hurt and just blacked out and don't really know what's going on. But I was pregnant, so I couldn't run to alcohol. I couldn't run to drugs or anything that could lace up those feelings. I had to deal with those feelings and I had to talk to God and I had to come out of that depression. And all of those things just made me a different person. And because I was able to fight my way out of those things with God, and I self stigmatized myself so much in the beginning, nothing anyone says, especially on a computer, uh,
Mhm.
people that I will probably never see, can make me feel some type of way. And then all of the messages and the support I get from people who live in other countries or people who live here and they can't tell people their status and they feel safe enough to reach out to me to share their story, or they feel safe enough just to say thank you for saying something, for the people who can say absolutely nothing. Um, it's good enough for me. As long as I can help one person, all of those negative things mean nothing.
I'm so grateful that, for your daughter, for one, for helping you get through that in the sense of, like you said, if you had not been pregnant, you may have taken a different route. So, yes, we are grateful that you're still here because the countless amount of people that you are helping and increasing the conversations around HIV will be impactful. So, absolutely amazing, amazing, amazing. I love hearing those kind of stories where, like me, HIV actually, I won't say gave me like this grand life, but it definitely shifted the trajectory of my life because who knows what I would have been doing or what I wouldn't have been taking care of myself or going to the doctor when I needed to do so. I look at the silver lining in these kind of
Yeah.
things.
And that's what
So,
I tell
uh,
people all the time. HIV was a blessing in disguise for me.
absolutely, I love that blessing in disguise. So, on the flip side of the wild things that you've heard, because it gets crazy, we know. How has using your platforms actually helped you as an advocate? I know you mentioned people reaching out, but what else has it helped like you?
I think it. I definitely think it helps with, personally, my mental health. Um, as with this virus, I feel like it doesn't matter how long you live with it, you'll always have good and bad days. But being able to speak out and not hold things in, um, helps. Being able to, I've created this, we're gonna say, family, because there's people who literally wait for me to get on live just so we can have a conversation. So it's not like we're just sitting there talking about HIV all day and I'm trying to drill this in people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
We're answering questions and we're educating people, but at the same time, people are checking on me and wondering how I'm doing. How are my kids doing? Did my daughter go to dance today? Did my son win the football game? So it's creating this circle of people that you probably never would have met if you weren't on here, just trying to educate people, just trying to tell my people, my black people, that this can happen to us, but if you start taking care of yourself and you're testing yourself, that it doesn't have to happen to you. But if it does, you're not alone. And if you know somebody else that maybe you weren't trying to be around or pay attention to, you can see through me that we're just normal people. We just
Mm-hmm.
happen to have to now see the doctor a little more or pop a pill every single day. Um, so we're here and we're living our best lives. And just being able to spread the joy and the peace that I feel every single day and seeing it show on other people, is it's worth it.
Yes, it's totally been rewarding for me as well to hear those stories from folks of saying like, I don't know, I don't know where I would be without hearing from folks like you and such
Yeah,
and such. And so it's like, well, it keeps me going. I will say that because there are
yeah,
times where we do get tired, right? But those types of messages really fulfill the passions inside because when you pour out so much, it's hard to recharge. And sometimes you have to be more intentional about it. And what I say is, people really do recharge me most times because
yeah.
if I don't have that push, there's no telling what I would be doing. So the way I've helped you, you have helped me in the same sense.
Right.
Yes. So we're gonna move through these next few questions kind of quick, but I want to ask you about. Earlier, you mentioned that you're a writer. You write for the Well Project, but you've written not one but two books. Can you tell us a little bit about those things and those books and where people can get those things?
So both my books you can find on Amazon, or when you follow me, you can reach out to me and I can send you them personally, signed copies. Um, But my first book is called Living My Truth. That's where I got my brand name. And that book is just a little biography of myself, of how I ended up 22 and pregnant, living with HIV. It's a quick read, but it's people say it's definitely worth it. They're still waiting for me to write a second one.
Okay.
And then the second one is called Dating with HIV. And that book is a co-author book that I did with four other wonderful women living with HIV, four black women. We all live on different parts of the world and we all are living with HIV and we all have different stories to share. But we all always get that question like, how is dating? Do you guys still do this or do you still do that? So it's a book with some of us shared secrets on sneaky links and how dating is just normal. We just have something to disclose with people that other people don't have to disclose. So I think it's a very good book to read just to just see this perspective of how we deal with love or how we deal with maybe we just want to spend a night bag too. So they're
Okay.
so they're very good books, and I think everybody should check them out.
Yes, absolutely. You can find them on Amazon, you said. And then if you want to, because I'm going to reach out and give me a personalized autograph copy, okay? So let's talk about advice. Now, in the book, you did give advice on dating, but what about in advocacy? What advice would you give to someone who's interested in becoming an advocate or getting involved in the cause?
Um, I would say I feel like I ran into advocacy on accident, and it just made me feel good, so I kept doing it. Um, but I feel like if you know that it's something you want to do, and maybe just maybe you haven't found your voice yet, start looking at other advocates. I'm not saying like copy them and do exactly what they're doing, but just learn them, learn the language, learn about the virus, share your story. And you can do advocacy in many different ways. You don't have to go live all the time. You could blog. Blogging is excellent for anybody. I feel like you get to get your feelings out of your head and onto the paper or onto the website. Draw if you're a drawer. Use your artistic skills. You like to do poems. This USCHA, we had Kayla on the main stage, and her poem was so beautiful.
Absolutely.
I've never heard, and I love poems, but I feel like I've never heard anything like the way that she did her poem as a love letter to Black women while living with HIV. It was something that was so amazing, and that is her way of advocacy. So it looks many different ways. I would also let them know that they're not alone. They don't have to go through this alone. They never have to feel alone. And I feel like in this space, it's not that hard to find your tribe because everybody's so loving and
Mhm.
welcoming. So just reach out, and my inboxes are always open. I love to help people.
Yes, we love a welcoming advocate. So you heard it first. If you reach out to Destiny, she will respond. And of
Yeah.
course, y'all know it'll respond too, even though I have a lot of TikToks that are funny. I do talk about HIV as well. Destiny, you'll see my shenanigans all over the place. The Tina
Yeah.
Turner, Golden
Okay.
Girls. But yes, I try to get serious every once in a while.
Yes.
So I read something on your social media and I want to kind of get your sense of what the affirmation means to you. It says, I focus on what I can control and make peace with what I cannot. So tell me, what does that affirmation mean to you and how has
Woo.
that message helped you?
So I used to have this bad thing where um I used to let things that I couldn't control ruin my whole day. Like it could be the littlest thing, and I know for a fact, nothing that I do will change this. But I'm already mad. I'm already heated. Now my whole day is ruined. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be around this. Um, and and I had somebody tell me one time we were just I don't even remember what I was mad at, and they were just like, can you control it right at this moment?" And I was like, "No, but that's not the point." And they were just like, "That actually is the point, and it is the point. If you can't control it, why are we letting it control us?" And I feel like if I want to be at peace when I know I can't control the situation, I just need to move on and let God work it out. If it was meant for me to control, He would let me control that. And if it's not, I know regardless of what the situation is, God got it. Um, I'm a very firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and God places you in places for a reason. So for me to be at peace, some things I just don't pay attention to. We can say pay attention to, or I just don't allow it to mess with my feelings, knowing that there's something else that I can control that will change a different situation. If that makes sense. So I just try to now I try to I feel like since I've contracted the virus, one thing that has really changed big for me is I have learned to feel my feelings at that moment so they can do what they need to do and move on. And then I'm not sitting in a depressive state for so long and feeling like I can't do anything else because I want to cling on to these feelings and feel so bad. And there's other things I could be doing. There's other people I could be helping. There's other situations I can fix. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Oh, that's some amazing discussions that we'll probably have more about and maybe a part two. But I want to know, how do you replenish yourself? Because we know that you give a lot as a mother, as a daughter, as a friend, advocate. How do you replenish yourself?
So I'm not gonna hold you. My favorite thing to do is sleep.
Okay.
I'm a big napper. I feel like my whole family is nappers, but like I am a big napper. If I can take a quick nap or just take so the weekends I don't do too much. I work I work Monday through Friday. Um I started to set schedules around my outside advocacy that goes through Monday through Friday. So that on Saturday and Sunday I don't have to do things like my children. They do their practices throughout the week also. So it's like I'm doing everything through the week. So on the weekends, I can literally sleep if I want to sleep, or just spending time with the family I created and making memories. Um, and everybody keeps saying I'm in this phase right now with the my man thing. Just being around him, like he brings me so much peace. Um, that like when I could just lay around him for a minute and my energy is completely back. So just being able to do things with my children and do things as a family and then just come home and we can put on a movie and eat dinner together and don't have to worry about doing anything until Monday morning. It rejuvenates me. It brings me so much peace. So like when Monday comes and I know I got to do this, I got to do that, I'm cool. I'm good to go.
Oh, I love that. Look, I'm practicing for my man too. Okay, Destiny. Live in it, baby. Relish in it. Forget
Yeah.
them folks. So I want to ask this. Are there any things that are coming up? Any events, campaigns, or initiatives that you'd like to highlight or promote?
So in my own community in Iowa, I do write articles for a magazine. Um, I thought I had one in front of me, but I don't. For a magazine, and I'm trying to think of the name. I feel so bad that I can't think of the name because you just put me on the spot. The Real Mainstream. They are this fall releasing a podcast, and I will have my own channel through their podcast. So I already have a podcast called Destiny's Truth Garden. I'll be bringing back soon. But with them, the podcast is called Breaking the Silence, and I'll be able to bring people on from throughout my neighborhood and other HIV advocates and just spend time sharing my story and sharing other stories and educating people. Um, and then November, I will be in Atlanta for the V Youth and Community Summit, and I'll actually get to be on the panel this year on the second day on the main stage in front of all of the peoples. So this is my first panel, and it's in front of all of the people. So I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Yes.
Um, and I think that's it for now.
I love that you are getting your first panel. That's amazing. I can't wait to hear about the podcast and all of those things. And hopefully we get to connect. I hope to be in Atlanta as well in November. So
Yes.
that would be great. We can kiki in person.
Yes.
Now, Destiny, I want you to tell the people again where they can find you and just give them any parting words that you would like to express? Any final thoughts?
So you guys can find me on TikTok and Facebook. Those are my most used socials at Destiny Smith. If you throw HIV in the back of it, it'll pop up quicker. And then also Instagram at Destiny Unshea. So UNSHIA. That's my middle name. Um, and I guess my last parting words is because I think I don't know if you asked the question, but I know when you sent me the questions, one of your questions asked about a mantra that I live by.
Mm-hmm.
So when I um in my earlier years of contracting this virus, so like my second, third year, I did a lot of personal development, and I listened to Eric Thompson a lot. And he has this mantra that he says, "I can, I will, I must." So figure out why you can, because we all can. It doesn't matter what it is, you can. Figure out why you will, how you will, and get it done. And figure out why you must. What's your why? Why do you need to do this? Why do you have to get this done? No matter what I go through, my why will always be my children. Um, I fell into a really bad depression when they told me I was positive. And the only reason why I got out of that depression is because of my children. I was pregnant and my son was already 2.5, 3, and I couldn't take care of my son. And God forcefully made me get up to take care of my son, and that got me out of that depression. So your why has to be something that's gonna force you to get up and go and get it done. So I can, I will, I must. Write it down, put it up somewhere, and just remember those three things.
I love that. That is amazing. People, I don't know about you, but I have totally gotten dozens of little nuggets that's going to help me throughout the rest of my week, the month, even. Destiny, I want to thank you a million times. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me.
Yes, I can't wait to hear it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And if you're out there, don't forget to follow Destiny on her socials. Don't forget to buy the book. Look out for the upcoming events that will be taking place. And definitely check out what we have with Engaging Arkansas Communities. If you want to get involved, if you want to know how you can take action in the fight against HIV or ending the HIV epidemic, check out engagingarkansas.org. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, email us at info@engagingarkansas.org. And yeah, hit us up. Thank you again, Destiny. Say ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.